You can call me Dazen. I'm from SCTV in Indonesia. And we would like to ask you a few questions about the condition in Ukraine, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Okay, please, can you tell me where you are exactly right now in Ukraine?
I'm currently in the city of Chernivtsi, and I moved here recently from the city of Kharkiv, which is in the eastern part of Ukraine. So I evacuated few people from Kharkiv to Chernivtsi, and right now, before going back, I'm thinking of I'm doing all I can in informational warfare, giving interviews like this, and also coordinating humanitarian help.
My first question for you in Ukraine is, can you describe what the condition is like in there?
There's no single explanation for the condition for the entire country because situation changes by the hour in every single city. I can share a few details on what is going on in the city of Kharkiv, which is probably one of the hottest places in the country now. It is the city that is being extensively bombed by Russian military, artillery and aero bombs. The images that I get from my friends who are still there and the messages that I get from them spending most of their time in bomb shelters are just devastating. I hear the stories of civilians being killed right in front of my friends, people going out to get medicine in drugstores or going out to get water in drugstores and just randomly being killed by shrapnel from bombs and artillery is something that I have never imagined in my hometown. I get images of places where I used to grow up, where I used to live and walk and get coffee. And these places are absolutely unrecognizable. I would never imagine to see such a devastation to a 2 million people city, the second largest city in the country. So that's as it is in Kharkiv. At the same time, I'm in close touch with my friends and family who are still there. And I would not say that panic is the word that can describe their attitude. Over the last 5 days, their attitude has changed dramatically from initial panic within the first couple hours of war to anxiety. That is something that you get when you combine panic with dignity. Then once you see the injustice that is going on. Let me also say a few things about the cities that are located in the West, because some of my friends, those are mostly cultural managers who are really good at management and all these kind of soft skills processes. They have moved here to the West and they are sleeplessly doing all they can to coordinate efforts to get medicine, protection gear, and even some lethal weapons delivered back to the hottest places in the country. Some of the people are organizing volunteering services to meet the refugees and internally displaced people. Some people are cooking food. Some people are offering their houses as shelters. Some people are going around the bomb shelters and making them more comfortable. Everyone is doing what they're good at and what they can do sleeplessly so that we have this combined effort. And again, as I've described, it's a mixture of anger and courage. That's mostly what I have been observing. And I see that in these 5 days, our nation has grown dramatically and probably way more than in the last 2 decades.
With all the ruins and all the bombings and all the houses destroyed, where do these refugees seek place to refuge?
Well, this has to be split into groups. First, there are, Kharkiv is a 2 million city. So there are about 2 million people there. And obviously, majority of these people stayed in there. And the devastation that we see, it is, I perceive it as more of a panic trigger. Because according to the data that we have right now, around 80 to 100 houses were damaged or destroyed. And you need to understand that, there are way more apartment buildings and houses in the city. So right now we are talking more about this rather sporadic pattern of shooting square by square, but at the same time quite randomly at the residential districts of the city. And yes, some people are literally losing their apartments. Some people are losing their arms and legs. Some people are losing their lives. But at the same time, they are still being able to come back to their homes unless required to stay in bomb shelters. Right now, as far as I know, most of their time they're spending in bomb shelters because this active phase of bombing on Kharkiv has started yesterday. And it has been going on ever since. So this first group who decided to stay, most of them fortunately still are able to come back to their apartments to prepare some food, to take care of each other. But at the same time, this is not even the biggest problem for them, because still most of the time they're spending in basements and bomb shelters. These people who actually managed to get away, some of them are doing what they can to fight back in informational warfare, hacker attacks, and whatever else. Most of them are being met at these stations, giving food and clothes. Some people are being housed by other Ukrainians who are just opening up their homes. Some people are actually currently occupying camps, such as these like hotels that are being redone in places that can accommodate large number of people. Some people go to schools that are also being redone, and dormitories, etc. Different volunteer groups doing whatever they can to accommodate as many people as possible. Some people are able to leave the country and go to the neighboring countries. These are mostly women and children, and this is also a reasonable step to do because it helps to unload this heavy load that the western part of the country is experiencing already. I have few friends that have managed to do so. In the beginning, the lines at the borders were quite long. Some of them would take up to 15, 20 hours, as far as I've heard. But right now, volunteers and the government on both sides actually, are trying to mitigate that situation and optimize the border crossing. And according to what the data that I have at the moment, around 600,000 people have crossed the borders in the western part of the country, most of them going to Poland. And I have few friends who have done so also.
What about the supplies of food, water, clothes for the refugees? Is there any coming, many, enough for everyone? Or what is the condition?
As far as I understand, the supply of clothes and food for refugees and displaced people is not the biggest issue that we have. The biggest issue is actually getting supplies to the city that are now experiencing the heaviest battles and the heaviest bombings. And city like Kharkiv is probably experiencing it really hard right now. There are already some difficulties with getting medicine. There are some troubles with getting constant supply of food. Some of my friends are sitting in houses that have no electricity. Some of them are actually in places that neither have electricity nor heating. And this is probably, if this will be going on for some time, some additional humanitarian efforts have to be made right away, because lack of medicine and lack of food and water supplies to those people who are spending most of their time in bomb shelters are a strong demoralizing factor. And right now, a lot of efforts are being put to get these things to Kharkiv and Kiev and few other cities. And to whoever is watching, this is probably one of the biggest things that Ukraine requires support in right now, excluding obviously the instant political action and sanctions and providing of security equipment and lethal weapons. This is something that has to be outlined separately. Medicine and some basic safety gear are needed in these crisis spots right away. And I'm asking to whoever is watching to reach out to your political representatives and demand direct political action so that Ukraine can get this support right now.
Okay, let's talk about bomb shelters. What are the conditions like in there?
The
Are there
situation
children?
Are there children? Yes, there are children. There are elderly people. There is literally everyone you can imagine. We have kids being born in bomb shelters right now. As far as I know, over the last few days, there were at least 6 kids being born in bomb shelters. Try to think about it for a moment. And the conditions of bomb shelters, they change from place to place, from district to district, from house to house. Like Kharkiv, for instance, has this subway system of around 30 stations, and some of the citizens of my city are able to actually get in the subway. And subway as a strategical infrastructure has been designed to be a bomb shelter, and there is all that is needed to support the people. And over the last few days, they have done some efforts to make these places more comfortable, to make sure that they have some supply of either food or water, that they have some mats and blankets and chairs to sit, because a lot of times they have to stay there overnight. Some bomb shelters are actually the leftovers of Soviet infrastructure that has been put in place a few decades ago. In some cases, I have heard that few of my friends just choose not to go to any bomb shelters, which is also an extremely worrying factor, because going in and out dozens of times over the course of 5 days is also a great challenge. And it's also a great risk factor. I have seen reports of people being killed on the way to the bomb shelter. I have seen reports of people getting killed on the way getting water to the bomb shelter. And this is something that that's the new reality that we live in. And this is like the most worrying factor for me, that I have friends who have elderly people who are unable to move freely, and they just choose to stay with them on like 7th floor of an apartment building, knowing that this entire situation that's going on with bombing is just a pure chance, whether they're going to be hit or not. And they're just taking this chance. And this is also emotionally devastating for me.
In a few days now, the bombings had been intense. What time does this bombing usually start? What is it like? What does it feel like to have to always wait for bombs to fall down?
Right. I need to make one remark. Again, we managed to get to a safer part for now. And where I'm right now, the alarm sounds just once per day. And it lasts for quite a short time, 30 to 40 minutes. But we are constantly monitoring these apps that we have, and like chats that actually post official alarms. And you would get an alarm going on in different cities literally every 20 minutes. There is no particular pattern when the bombing starts, when it ends. And as far as I know, all my friends in Kharkiv, they are spending most of their time in bomb shelter, because these alarms are just coming in way too often. And this allocation from the bomb shelter to the apartment and back, as far as we have seen for yesterday, is already quite a risky endeavor. And of course, that's extremely difficult to grasp. We are still only now realizing what is going on. This is an actual war.
Thank you so much, Roman. Just a few more questions, Roman. You said that there were many people injured. How is the condition of the hospitals there, and where are they being treated?
Unfortunately, I do not have the information on this topic. The only thing that I know is that the ambulances and the firefighters and the police, even in the city of Kharkiv, are still functioning, are still on their duty. They are doing whatever they can, taking in injured people. Unfortunately, I have no information regarding where these people are getting delivered. I have no information regarding where these people are getting treated. The piece of info I had 2 days ago was that these Russian bombings, they also happened to a large cancer facility in the city of Kharkiv. And this is this side of humanitarian crisis we are not even beginning to understand, because at the moment there are still people who require chemo. At the moment there are still people who require surgeries, and this is simply not happening because the center is destroyed. And this is again a vivid illustration of what a crazy, cold-blooded murder massacre Russia is actually putting on in our cities, not even stopping at things such as cancer centers, at things such as opera houses, at things that have any cultural value, and everything else. Russia has no moral values it can offer to the world. Even in the darkest times as now, I see how my nation is actually flourishing. I see how we are not just a population living on a piece of land. I see how we can actually come together and fight back in a miraculous fashion, and that gives me hope, and that gives me optimism. And I see how consolidated efforts of the international community are also raising to an unexpected level. And I hope they will continue growing, because this is the second part of the equation. Without that, even the bravest soldiers, even the bravest volunteers would not be able to stop this aggression. So I hope that this trend will continue, and I'm confident that Ukraine will win eventually. We have already won. We are getting out of this stronger every day. So glory to Ukraine.